I want to introduce someone. You're not a stranger. I mean, you're all over the media. Shmuley, America's rabbi. You're an old friend.
Yeah,
I
consider myself the intergalactic rabbi. I feel that I'm rabbi to all life forms, both discovered and those yet to be discovered.
You had Shalom in the Home as a TV show.
I
You
did.
were on radio on WABC. You were on Oprah's channel.
Yep.
On XM Sirius. You got a lot going on.
And I've been doing your shows for more than a decade.
But in spite of that, you are still very media prominent. So
yeah, I'm still trying to correct your views. It'll happen.
Thank you very much. Well, you're not. I used to think you were very right wing, but I think you're much more fair and balanced than you used to be.
Oh my gosh! Did you just co-opt someone's slogan here? Okay.
Well, no, I work for the company. It's okay.
Okay, you're allowed to do that.
I'm contractually allowed to say that. It's in my way. The minute they fire me, though, I'm no longer allowed to say those words. Let's talk about it. This is certainly very troubling. And I wrote a piece for AOL, because I write for them as well, about how it's not okay if you're a Jew to criticize Israel. In fact, it's not okay if you're an American, in many cases, to criticize Israel. If we speak out against the Israeli government, I've been called a self-hating Jew, anti-Semitic. For those who don't know, I'm Jewish. And I just wonder, at what point, is it too much? I mean, Netanyahu is defending what he did with the flotilla. Why is it not okay to speak out against what Israel does?
First of all, you are a great Jew, and you're a great guy, and you're a great friend. The only thing you do wrong as a Jew is you often pay retail, and that's just not right, Alan.
Right,
you got to take one for the team here.
I'm a Reformed Jew, so I don't have
the
connections you have as an Orthodox.
Well, you got to get some.
Okay.
Look, I don't think there's anything wrong with Jews criticizing Israel. On the contrary, the difference between the Jewish community and large segments of the Islamic community is that the Islamic community is, in some sectors, losing the capacity to be self-critical. I mean, the only way you stop yourself from going off the deep end is to analyze your actions and to try to act righteously.
Right.
My issue is when people criticize Israel unfairly and not criticize other countries who are much more guilty of heinous behavior. Let's take Turkey and the United States. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the Prime Minister of Turkey, has become such a bully when it comes to Israel. His rhetoric has become so inflammatory.
I have a point. He's been very condemnatory of what Israel did.
Well,
now,
let's.
Is he not accurate to say, hey, look, this was a Turkish ship, was in international waters, basically Turkish territory, I guess considered Turkish territory at that point. So,
well, let me just say, here's a man whose country, not in his lifetime, murdered 1.5 million Armenians. The United States Congress wants to label that a genocide. He has threatened to severely damage American-Turkish relations, and President Obama capitulated to that, and that's a tragedy because the Armenians were slaughtered.
Right,
so it's not as if Erdogan is a very moral man. But let me just go to his core criticism. The United States, they placed a blockade on the country of Cuba during the missile crisis when Cuba had never attacked the United States. We don't have any idea that they had an intention to, but the United States imposed this blockade. Israel was attacked by Gaza, by Hamas, with 10,000 rockets fired at nurseries, fired at hospitals, fired at old age homes. How can anyone say that Israel should not have a blockade to stop them from getting bombs and war materials?
By the way, to your defense, it's an Israeli-Egyptian blockade.
Correct, correct.
But it's also something that they're now easing up upon, and there's been accusations that innocent women, children, and families are being suffering because of this blockade, and it's not having the intended political effect that it was supposed to have.
Yeah, but what do? You're right. Did Israel make huge mistakes with this flotilla raid? Of course. It was a trap. These people never cared about humanitarian aid for Gaza. If they did, they would have allowed the aid to go through an overland route that was offered not just by Israel, but by Egypt as well. This was a provocation to test the blockade because these people hate Israel.
You're saying the flotilla was purposely provocative?
It was an absolute trap, and so is the new flotilla that's coming.
Why only one of the 6 ships then were the ones that supposedly were boarded and had any kind of contraband on it?
I'm not saying that all of them intended to be violent. I'm saying the purpose of the flotilla in general was really to be condemnatory of Israel as opposed to helping anybody, because if they wanted to help anyone, there were much easier, quicker, cheaper ways to get that aid into Gaza. This wasn't about helping the Gazans. This was about condemning Israel. And they knew that it would lead to a confrontation. What do you ask of a tiny little country, population 6 million Jews, about 1 million Arabs, that has Hezbollah on its border, Hamas on its border, Syria on its border, all of whom their stated intention, including Ahmadinejad of Iran, to destroy that country. Is it going to make mistakes? God almighty, of course it's going to make mistakes. Everyone is out to destroy this little country. What did it do to Hezbollah? What did it do
to happen? Did these 10 people, rather, have to die on this ship?
No, of course not. And we wish that Israel could have handled it in a way where they wouldn't have died. I just don't know how Israel could have done that. I guess in a perfect universe, Israel could have maybe had better intelligence and known that these passengers were going to attack its soldiers. But I have to ask you this question, Alan. You and I are here in the heart of New York City. If someone came to a New York cop with a metal pipe and started beating him over the head, and if someone came to a New York cop with a knife and started stabbing him, even if that cop had anti-riot gear and he didn't want any kind of fatalities, would he not sort of just go into his training almost reflexively and defend his life?